So this instant knee-jerk thing to go to, let's make it a political dispute, and we want to talk all about how Israel's done very, very bad things that led to this terrorist attack. It's really Israel's fault. This would be to me like right after 9/11 saying, okay, it was bad. The terror, I mean, I guess the direct analogy would be you wouldn't even say the terror was bad. You would just go right to, we deserved it. America deserved it. They put themselves in the position where they outraged people in the Middle East, and they had this coming. There was one or two people after 9/11 who made those absurd arguments, and they were excoriated for them. No one was willing to entertain that kind of talk in the wake of a devastating terror attack that killed 3,000 innocents here in America. One of the lunatics who made the argument at the time was a guy named Ward Churchill, a professor at UC Boulder. And in one of my favorite interviews of my career, somehow my team managed to convince him to come on my show. And it was spectacular. The whole thing's on YouTube. The whole exchange was well worth watching. But I'll give you a flavor for how it went and how this university professor admitted he was feeling about the whole thing and what he was saying, but he was the outlier. Here, watch.
You thought that the dead Americans were just like the Nazis. However, you had nothing but praise for the 9/11 hijackers. You called them courageous, even gallant. Mm-hmm. Gallant? Mm-hmm. Do you believe the United States ought to be bombed?
I think the United States, by its own rules, is subject to being bombed.
You can't answer the question.
Yeah, I have answered the question. I think the United States should comply with law. If it does not comply with law, it opens itself up to it, bombing that is. It opens itself up to having done to it everything it does to anyone else.
Answer honestly, yes or no. Do we deserve to be bombed? Just say it if you think it's true.
I say that if you open yourself up under rule of law for reciprocation in kind, it's quite likely going to happen.
That was like out of A Few Good Men. Right, right? He started stumbling.
He was about to say, you can't handle the truth,
Truly. But that's what you did with somebody who sounds like these college professors today. But there was just the one. Maybe he made national news when he made those comments. It was a huge deal. Contrast that, Noah, to what's happening today on these university campuses with its professor after professor coming out. The guy, Rickman at Cornell, it was exhilarating. It was exciting to see Hamas on those paragliders coming over to murder those kids.
Yeah, it's you look back at that, even that, and it's like it was a more innocent time. And I think there's a few things here. One is that this is what happens when there's just a kind of conveyor belt of lunatics who get fed into the university system, and the universities make a conscious decision that they are going to bring people like that in. They create entire academic fields. Like gender studies, like, peace and justice studies, that are these made up disciplines that are made up explicitly just to have more radical leftist Marxists on campus. So part of it is just that, whereas back then, I don't know, a quarter of the professors had those attitudes. Now 2/3 of them do. So there's just more of it. It's also, I think there is a piece of this where they're willing to say this about Israel, and they wouldn't be willing to say it about America, because Israel is a lot easier to bully, and these people are just a bunch of bullies. Part of what's so frightening about the longstanding delegitimization and demonization campaign against Israel is that part of the real strategy of it is to create a situation in which, when something like this happens, you can then go and say, well, the Israelis deserved it. They got what's coming. Either it's great that this happened, or it's just not so bad that this happened, or this is just what happens when you're, an evil, demonic country like Israel is. And so it's kind of this like writ of genocide that they create by attempting to inculcate students and young people and liberals with the idea that Israel basically doesn't have a right to exist, and that all Israelis are legitimate targets, so that when something like this happens, it ends up seeming kind of normal and typical to say, like, yeah, they had it coming. This is how things are handled there.
These college professors,
and it's absolutely terrifying.
They're one step away from, hurt people hurt people.
Oh, I don't think they're even a step away from it. That's like basically the message that this is
that one's for Dave.
occupied people resist.
Yeah, that's right. But going back to what I said about American support for the IRA, which was very real and which I still find to be sort of nuanced. I think Megyn, you're making the key point here, which is that what we saw on October 7th was so far beyond anything that we even imagined was possible. That's what shocks me about the college professors, that you're not even starting with, okay, obviously this is not acceptable, even though the cause is righteous. And I guess my question is, if what we witnessed there is not acceptable, what's the limiting principle here? And I think Noah's exactly right. I think that what Noah probably knew, and what people who keep a closer eye on this probably knew prior to October 7th, but which I didn't know, was that Hamas would happily kill every Jew in Israel to achieve their aims. They would happily kill every Jew in Israel. And I shudder to think that a lot of these college professors would agree with that sentiment. And I don't know how you fix that, because that's just pure evil.
That's so true. How do you fix it? This not going to get fixed, Noah. We're not going to, even if they wipe out Hamas, we're not going to wipe out anti-Semitism in the Middle East or in Palestine. This problem's going to go on and on. It's like, forgive the terminology, the phrasing, but it's almost the bare minimum Israel can do right now is to wipe out Hamas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and look, it's part of what's been so frightening about this is like, you see, if there was a line that Hamas could cross that would cause Western leftists to basically say, okay, you've gone too far. There is nothing that Hamas could there's nothing that anyone has really done in the annals of human savagery that is worse than what they did. Some of the things they did have not even really been talked about. Torturing children in front of their parents, cutting limbs off. And just stuff that I try not to think about. So progressives basically have looked at that and said, okay, we're fine with that. There's no scenario in which anyone can go too far. And so I think the lesson here is that our Ivy League especially is a deeply poisoned place. Parents need to stop sending their kids to these schools. We have schools that are actually wonderful. Ben Sass and the University of Florida, he is doing an amazing job there, turning the University of Florida into a sane place. There's other schools in Florida that are being turned into sane places. But my God, I don't care if my kids got into Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I just wouldn't send them there. I simply wouldn't do it. And it's time. There is a tendency among kind of the upper middle class in this country to be infatuated with prestige, and to want to brag to their friends about, the Ivy League school their kid goes to or the elite private school their kid goes to. I think that it's time for people to kind of give that up and recognize that it's not just that these schools are mediocre, it's that they're toxic and they're horrible, and your kid will be indoctrinated with very, very bad beliefs and bad values. Stop sending your kids to these schools. There's other choices. Send them to a religious school. Send them to Hillsdale. Send them to the University of Austin, the new college that is getting off the ground.
Freelance work is booming. So many people are taking the leap and starting their own business, but how do you maximize your earnings and minimize your taxes and make sure you are legally compliant? It can be overwhelming, confusing, and it takes time away from your own billable hours. That's where the experts at Collective.com come in. Collective was built specifically for businesses of one that are making over $60,000 in profit a year. Collective handles all of your back office work so you can focus on your passion and not your paperwork. And they can tell you how they can backdate your S-Corp and save you thousands on taxes this year. They handle business formation, compliance paperwork, taxes, bookkeeping, accounting, even payroll. Check out collective.com/Megyn before October 31st to potentially save thousands of bucks on your 2023 taxes. Yes, 2023 taxes. To sweeten the deal, they will also throw in an extra $100 off when you use my link. But you got to do it before Halloween. That's collective.com/Megyn to get started with your personal team of self-employed tax experts. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.